Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner, and I'm just going to be going on a bit of a tangent in this video, so bear with me here as I've got some things I want to say. In particular, I just want to address the fact that people are losing their goddamn minds over this particular card, Eradicator Draconic Descendant, as it's been spoiled that he is getting a stride in set 9 called True Eradicator Draconic Descendant Zillion. And as a result, this thing's kind of become really pricey again. At the time of this video being shot, Eradicator Draconic Descendant is about $20 for the RRR and $50 for the SP, when prior to just the picture being spoiled, not the actual card, but just like a picture of a Draconic Descendant like card, this card was under $10, but then he just shot up in less than 24 hours and got sold out everywhere. Now he's back on the market, but at a much higher value because of, well, the community being the community. In addition to that, people are just going crazy over what this deck is going to be like when the set comes out. It's like, Erads are going to be great again. Let's make Erads better. I'm just thinking, even if we do in fact get a restanding Vanguard for this clan, or rather this deck, but like, yeah, for the Narukami clan, that alone is not going to make the deck good. Because when you look at it, yeah, a restanding Vanguard is nice, but everything else in the deck is not good. This is just what I threw together to try and get a feel of how I want the deck to function, because at this point I think to myself, why would I play Eradicator when there are literally 3 different and better options available from the Narukami clan, as all these guys are just generally better. As Vanquisher, while it's slower than the other ones, is able to kill more efficiently, which is a problem I'll address in a bit, and it has access to stronger strides in the form of voltage for the late game, and the binding mechanics okay-ish, but it just feels like this does what Erads do, but better. And then I feel Kaiser is able to do what these two do, but better, because it has access to Draconic Death Scythe in addition to the generic retiring options that this guy has. And Draconic Kaiser Warning is a very strong card, and the Kaiser support currently available allows it to hit for okay numbers. And then I feel, as stated before, that Brawler are just simply the best of the bunch, as they can wipe the entire board for very little cost, and they can power up for big numbers at the same time. Not as big as what Vanquisher can once you've managed to get about 5 to 7 cards bound, but you can still swing at plus 30 columns, in addition to having the ability to rush and be able to retire. So, again, it's like, yeah, Erads will have the option to have a restanding Vanguard, but what good is it going to be if everything else about the deck is still god-awful? And the reason I say that is like, you look at, actually a good example would be Kagero, and I'll pull out these guys for a second here. Wow, that's a terrible glare. But Kagero, pre-Legend deck and pre-Set 7, weren't really doing anything. And they had a self-standing Vanguard in the form of the Ace. They could retire, and they had a self-stander, but they were awful. And why was that? Well, they were slow. They couldn't really handle consistent rushing. Yes, they could counter-rush to an extent, thanks to Draconic Burnout and Neoflame and Berserk Dragon if you ran that. But, like, all of these aggro decks would just beat the hell out of you because you couldn't keep up with the constant attacks or the big lines. And as a result, this deck just kind of fell off the map. But then the Legend deck came out, which was a nice step, but it still wasn't enough to make it great, as it just gave you a really good ride in Nahalem. Although Nahalem goes a very long way in making this deck good. But it was ultimately Set 7 that coming out that finally got it there, as Set 7A gave it a early to mid-game card that allowed it to play pressure games with Titan and his crit. And most importantly, and often complained about, is that it also gave them really good G Guardians in the form of this guy. But most, if not especially, where can I find him? Did I accidentally leave him in my other thing? I have a Denial Griffin on me, it's just I can't find it. Should be somewhere, actually. Wow. This isn't... Oh, yeah. Also, they have a guard restrict option here, but, like, they've also got a good G Guardian, and we kind of don't. And there he is. And then finally, of course, they have Denial Griffin. So, this allows them to actually fight back against aggro decks, as if your opponent has a giant-ass column or a restanding column or something along the lines, the Denial Griffin can stop that. Or if they happen to have grade 1s or back row units that you want to get rid of, the Beat Flare can stop that. Whereas Erads, if your opponent is playing a combo deck like Victor or Aqua Force, they're just going to run all over you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And then, come your turn, you're going to be like, Ride Gauntlet Buster, Stride and the Finish Blow effect. Your opponent kills one, he gets a crit, that's great. And then that's really it. Like, this deck doesn't really have very good ways of counter rushing. Like, you have Cho-Oh, but the problem I've had with Cho-Oh for a very long time, compared to the likes, well, Neoflame's actually not that particularly great, and that's a terrible glare, but where is he? But compared to Burnout, is that Cho-Oh requires you to already have resources to use it, whereas Burnout is a +1, and not being able to get the +1 and having to use your own cards in order to kill things, even if it is for no counterblast, is not good. Like, Erads need a lot of good rear guards in order to be great, and I hope that's what they do in set 9. They've already said they're going to try and support Descendant. I don't know how they're going to support Descendant, but they definitely need more things. Like, granted, as far as certain rearguard rules go, I don't think we really need a Nahalem type card, as we've already got Shatora, and this is still a very good card. Swing, it invalidates any of the big guys that get big, like double gun machine gun eradicator, double machine gun eradicator or something, or spark ray dragon. We don't need those as long as we have Shatura, but we do need better removal options, and preferably ones that would get big themselves. Like, the dream would be we would have basically a Burnout that also becomes 11k for the turn it's called down, if you happen to have a Descendant Vanguard or an Eradicator Vanguard. Like, we need, instead of something that's on call, suck one up, kill one, we need something that's on call, flat out kill one. Like, we need a Sky Howl Dragon for this deck. And it can be a special counterblast, one Eradicator, but I just don't want to have to commit cards in order to use my goddamn retire effects. And let's see here. Some of the other ways we happen to have for killing things are not good. Lawrence Force Dragon, that card's terrible. Phoenix Sword Eradicator Chojan, that requires you to hit, and he's 9k by himself, so he can't hit unless he's boosted. If I'm going to run a card that needs to boost, and in order to do its stuff, I might as well run Voltage Horn Dragon in the deck. The Voltage Horn is not an Eradicator, and he's also DB1, which makes it slower. And then, again, there's the issue of the Stride pool. Again, all these clans have really good G units to fit the situation. Like, Kagero and Gear Chronicle is a toolbox. We happen to have Get Big and Scary, Get Big and Scary, Get Big and Scary, but you need to have cards bound, and that's an issue. This is god-awful, yet we still have no choice but to run it because Narukami does not have a good generic for Stride. And more than anything else, we need something like that. We need an Aura Geyser Dragon that binds cards, but does not require cards to be bound in order to be used, so that every variant can use it. And in doing so, minimum Thunderstrike 3 or something. Basically, you can set up this guy, and this guy, so that Kaiser, Brawler, and Eradicators can actually make use of these goddamn Thunderstrike G units. Because as it is, we have some of the worst G Guardians in the game because they're only good for one deck, or if you get lucky, Shatora hits in the early game, but chances are he won't. So we need a good opening G unit. As far as other G units go, like, we have good mid to late game G units. I mean, much like Blaze Master Titan, we have Finish Blow Dragon, and Finish Blow is actually really good at what you want it to do. Like, if you're... The thing I at least notice that this deck has is that if you can't ride Descendant, you have a good backup in Gauntlet Buster because of Finish Blow Dragon, and being able to close the gap, put your opponent from 2 damage to 3. Like, I almost killed someone because I strode, Diminish Blow, I used a skill, then I had to Cho-Oh, and I was swinging for 3 crit, and he PG'd, of course, but then I proceeded to check 2 crits off that. So I was swinging for 5 damage, and he was at none. So I probably could have taken him from 0 to 5 of that hit, but that's besides the point. The point is, before we get the Finish Blow, we've got nothing. We've just got... we just have Zoras, and that's not good. Like, we basically have to go first, and G Guardian, so that when we actually do get the Stride, we can use the good cards, and not the terrible cards. And... Sorry, I'm, like, fighting a cold here, I guess, but... We need those options. Otherwise, it's like, again, what good is a restander going to do when the rest of the deck is terrible? And I would not be surprised that in spite of Zillion being more or less a next stage clone, the rest of the deck's going to be terrible because new Vanquisher support will probably just outdo it in what it wants to do. You've already got Voltage, you've got Conquest Dragon, you just need a way to bind more efficiently and to make Thunderstrike good. And if they give Thunderstrike the level of quality support that they've given Bloom, then that deck's just going to be strong on this because they just hit for bigger numbers more consistently. And it more or less makes up for the fact that you can't restand by eating your opponent's hand away with 50k column rearguard lanes. So, case in point... Actually, I don't know what would be the case in point of the video. More other than I'm just thinking people are going way too crazy over Erads when, again, this thing has a lot it needs going for in order to get moving. And that's not even talking about the kind of things I'd like to see at the grade 1 slot, as our current card pool of Eradicator cards is more or less just stuff that gets big and stuff that kills for the grade 2s, and the grade 1s there's like utility things like filtering or unflipping. But I'd like to see a grade 1 that if you kill things, it can... No, we already have a grade 1 that does that, but like, we have Shuki, which is good, but I'd like to see a grade 1 that if it boosts an Eradicator and it hits, your opponent retires something like Linchu, but it's not just your starter, because, to be perfectly honest, more ways to kill outside of using counterblasts or sacking up your own units is something I would really like to see. And then as far as like G Guardians go, I know people are going to get pissed if I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We need a Denial Griffin. Like, Narukami, yes, it's a more aggressive and, a more aggro clan than Kagero is, but we're still pretty slow and we're still pretty weak defensively. So having a G Guardian that stops your opponent would be good. Now, granted, it would be very powerful. It was just basically counterblast 1, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the front row, retire and bind it face up. That would annoy the piss out of people. But, I don't know, I think that'd be, like, it might be another tangent for another time, but to make a long story short, I feel like if they're going to continue making this clan operate in a slow-ish, grindy manner like any control clan, they need to up the power of our defensive options to compensate for the fact that, like, again, any combo deck on their first stride can get, like, 6 bajillion attacks off, and then we're down to 1 card in hand going into their Night Rose or their next stage or their second Phoenix play. And personally, I'd also like to just have a Denial Griffin because it would lead to some very fun interactions, particularly with Gauntlet Buster, Vanquisher's Generation Break 2, and Sweep Command could retire the entire front row off of that effect if you use that Limit Break. But I'd still sort of accept having a G-Guardian. That would be like kind of when this unit is placed on G-Guard, your opponent binds X amount of cards from the drop zone, and then for each card in the bind zone, your Vanguard gets shield. This unit gets shield plus X amount, or your Vanguard gets power plus X amount. I guess that'd be okay, but I'm gonna be greedy here because I love Narukami and I want the fucking Nile Griffin clone. I mean, Gears are getting more or less the same thing, although they can only touch back row units, but I just feel like control clans should be given that option to just have a G-Guardian that disrupts your opponent in some way during their turn. But I think I'm just going to stop here because I'm kind of rambling at this point. But yeah, again, long story short, people are going a bit too crazy on Erads. I mean, I get it. They are a fun deck. They were great back in the day, but they more or less stopped being good as the format went on when Raging Form Dragon and Star Vader came in. Like, Erads really haven't been good since preset 12, which like all their support ever since the second block of support in set 11 hasn't been good. Like set 14, not good. G set 2, not good. G set 5, not good. Like, Bushiroad's gonna really have to, pull out all the stops in order to make this deck good. And then at the same time, though, I don't think they can, because they have to also try and make Vanquisher good, because God knows that deck needs it. Like, it needs so many good things in order to be a viable deck. Like, they have to basically increase they have to power creep that deck up to keep up with the rest of the stuff, because if they just give Vanquishers like, oh, here's some more cards that bind, here's some more cards that retire, it's like, why would I play that when I can play Kagero or Gears? Because Gears are pretty good at removing, Kagero's really good at removing, and they have just more options as far as the G-Zone goes. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed this little rant. I might do more of these in the future. But oh, one more thing. In addition to this insanity, Descendant himself is getting reprinted in set 9. So it's like, if you are that person who, like, I feel honestly sorry for the people who dropped a ton of money on picking up the playsets of the Descendants, because he's going to get reprinted. Granted, we don't know how easy it is going to be to pull the thing, but really, this card should not be more than $15. So I wouldn't be surprised when the reprint drops it back down to that. But yeah, that's more or less my little rant on EDD, or rather just Eradicators in general. Long story short, a restander alone will not make the deck good. It needs a lot more as far as quality rearguards go in order to be great. And I just don't know if Bushiroad's going to be able to pull it off. We'll have to see, though. The spoilers for this set will probably come next month. Yeah, so until then, this is Blue Star 9 checking out.